public forum, but this afternoon we have a deputation from Mark Christensen, the Chair of the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust. And there should be a presentation on the hub there. So welcome, Mark. And you have brought us...
Marie Burnett is the General Manager for the Trust.
And Marie, welcome. Thank you.
Press this button.
Can you put your microphone on to push the button? Yeah,
Kia ora tātou. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and season's greetings. What we like to do is just very briefly take you through some of the work that the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust has been doing. We're speaking to item 7, but also relevant is item 8 around the biodiversity fund, and item 9, the stormwater management plans. BPCT was formed in 2001. It's a landowner and community-driven organisation, and we work with those wanting to work with us, landowners, agencies, sponsors, and the wider community across both the Banks Peninsula and the Port Hills. And we're operating as a conservation community hub. At the end of the day, we think conservation is about people. So when we're talking about the ecological vision, some of the work that we do with Covenanting, Pest-Free Banks Peninsula collaboration, the new project called Te Kākahu Kahukura, and then a little bit about the funding that the Trust enjoys with the Council.
So, the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust launched the 2050 Ecological Vision for Banks Peninsula at the end of 2016. The vision is a way to inspire people to be passionate about the environment around them, to understand it, their relationship with it, and take action to protect and restore it. While biodiversity protection and enhancement is the primary driver of this work, a community-wide effort to realise the vision will contribute to a prosperous, connected, resilient and healthy community. The ecological vision can't be delivered by one organisation or group on its own. It requires a collaborative and collective approach between agencies, runanga, other organisations and the community. This slide in front of you shows some of the diverse range of organisations that are already actively working towards realising this vision. To pursue our vision, we have adopted 8 ecological goals. They were adopted by the BPCT trustees on advice from a group of ecologists that was led by Professor David Norton from the University of Canterbury, and following wide consultation with our community and the organisations that we work with. The first 2 goals relate to the legal protection and careful management of high-value ecological sites on the peninsula, specifically old growth forest remnants and rare ecosystems. The Trust's Conservation Covenanting Program is one of the ways that we're delivering on these 2 goals. BPCT is the only local organisation in New Zealand with the power to covenant private land in perpetuity, and we receive really great support from local landowners who wish to legally protect high biodiversity on their land in this way. So this map shows you the extent of our conservation covenants as at the end of this financial year. The black line is the Banks ecological region, which is the area we work across. You can see that it extends around the perimeter of the peninsula, but also to the foot of the Port Hills, and includes Kaiteriti. So covenanting is a voluntary and really powerful legal mechanism that ensures biodiversity is protected in perpetuity for future generations. Some of the important habitat types that have been protected through our conservation program include the remnant and regenerating forests, rocky outcrops, rare and coastal foreshore, salt marsh and peat bog ecosystems. Our conservation covenants range from a hectare in size to over 330, and really importantly, they act as ecological stepping stones and or ecological corridors where they're proximal to conservation land held by agencies and other organisations. We have 76 legally registered covenants as at 31 March, protecting over 1,500 hectares of high-value biodiversity and an additional 16 covenanting projects that are currently in process. And I guess a good problem to have is that we have an awful lot of landowner demand for our support and expressions of interest, so much so that we can't actually service all the requests we get to support them in our program. The Trust's covenanting program provides an ideal vehicle for landowners to protect sites of ecological service, sites of ecological significance identified by council. This table shows 12 covenant programs that are either very recent or in progress that have been supported through the Christchurch Biodiversity Fund because these covenants align with your SES program. They will be co-funded by other organisations, often ECAN. There will be contributions from landowners, and also the Trust's commercial supporters provide pro bono services in terms of legal work, ecological surveys and land surveys. While the upfront costs of establishing a covenant are not insignificant, the far more onerous ongoing costs of ecological management of the conservation work being protected there are met by landowners and all future landowners as a result of that perpetual legal agreement. So this means that covenanting provides really good value or bang for buck for every conservation dollar that's spent. When a covenant is established with the Trust, we develop an ecological management plan that gives landowners guidance on how to manage and protect and enhance the conservation values they're protecting, and the Trust provides ongoing support to do this.
Okay, so I'd like to actually skip through a couple of these other the goals, although refer you to goal 4, which is around having at least 4 core areas of Indigenous forest being protected. And this leads to what is a new project, a new collaborative project, which is called Te Kakahu Kahukura. It was originally identified to be around the area of the fires in 2017 on the Port Hills. And since that time, we've been working with a collaborative group of organisations and landowners about bringing back at least 1,000 hectares of Indigenous podocarp forests on the hills. And it's focused around those areas that are on the map there, which are council reserves. They're covenanted areas either with the QE2 or with the Banks Peninsula Conservation Trust. And the idea is that they would form the core of the revegetated area, and then landowners around that area would contribute by planting and pest control and so forth. We were gifted the name Te Kakahu Kahukura by Ngāti Wheki and Te Tamutu, and it's got a rich cultural narrative, which is, if you had the time, it would be very interesting to explore. A number of objectives is to bring back the birds. So we want to bring back the tui, the weka, maybe the orange-fronted kakariki, so that the birds are flourishing on the Port Hills, so they can flow down across into the Heathcote catchment, and then eventually maybe into the red zone and beyond. We want to eradicate animal pests within the area as part of the Pest Free Initiative, working with the Healthy Harbour program for Whakaropo Littleton, and also supporting Christchurch City Council's goals around being carbon neutral. So we've got some ideas about how the city might be able to do some offsetting or some insetting in places that you can actually see the trees growing. And of course we need to make sure that we're spending time and effort and money in ways which are having impact, so that's part of the objectives. We're going to be launching the project in April 2021, and we'd love to have the council very much as part of that launch. I come to the Banks Peninsula being pest free effectively by 2050. I'll just briefly tell you about that.
So Pest Free Banks Peninsula is a collaborative program. It's about the widespread eradication of animal pests so that Indigenous biodiversity can thrive across the peninsula, but importantly also into Christchurch City and the Canterbury Plains beyond. It is a community-led initiative, has been formalised through an MOU signed by 14 foundation partners, and the City Council was one of these. To date, we have been successful securing a funding offer of $5.11 million from Predator Free 2050 Limited for the next 5 years. To realise this funding, we need to be able to match it with co-contributions to the same level from our other partners. ECAN and DOC have made significant contributions towards this already. And that funding program will support 15 new full-time jobs over the next 5 years. As you can imagine, the removal of animal pests across 110,000 plus hectares of Banks Peninsula is a aspirational and very ambitious program. The project management group that's been established to deliver pest-free Banks Peninsula have identified some detailed strategic outcomes for the first 5 years of this program, and those are listed above. There's peninsula-wide eradication of feral goats, 2 sister eradication programs which you can see on the image there in green. One is 5,000 hectares on Kaishariti and the other is a 23,000 hectare area in the southeastern corner of the peninsula. Those are the 2 areas that the government funding I just mentioned applies to. And in addition to that, we have some goals around increased suppression of pests in the Te Kaku Kahukura area that Mark just referred to, and also 4,000 plus households actively involved in household trapping in a community program through the Eastern Port Hills and in the Lyttelton Harbour Basin.
So can I just conclude by referring briefly to the funding, come to the money of course. The funding MOU that we have with the City Council has been a 10-year funding. That expires this coming year and you'll hear from us again on the LTP submissions. But it is critical for the Conservation Trust's ability to deliver some of the council's biodiversity outcomes, but also to engage with the community. So what we're looking to continue that support. We're looking for the council to continue that support, and we're looking to that support will assist the council working with a number of other organisations around the ecological vision. It will enable additional covenanting to occur. It will strengthen the pest-free initiative, but also champion this new project, which we consider to be the potential for very much a city legacy project of Te Kaku Kahukura. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I think we've used up all our time talking, but thank you very much.
Oh, thank you both very much for coming in. That was actually really interesting and really important to see the incredible work that's happening from the Trust. We are out of time, but has anybody got any burning questions that they want to ask? My question is probably of staff, of whether we've got any plans to continue the funding for the MOU, so we might put that through. Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go forward, keep up the good, awesome work.
I had one.
Did you? Have you still got it?
Yes.
Okay, or I'll allow it.
Hey, and apologies, Mark and
Marie.
And
Marie.
Yeah.
For if you've already said it, mentioned it, but what were the 2 locally extinct species that have been reintroduced?
Well, the first is tui. So, and we're still talking about what the second one should be. So the idea of the role was to introduce 2. We've had the tui. Now it'll be at least 2, but we haven't decided because I think that's very much a decision which will be led by the Runanga.
Okay, regarding tui, I must say that in the last 10 years since the earthquake, I've seen tui reasonably regularly on Heberden Ave in Sumner. There's some native planting there, and also near the Travis wetlands too.
Great. They are starting to come back.
Okay, thanks. Good luck.
Great. Beautiful bird. Thank you again. Okay, so now we come to the next item, which